Good morning, guys, here in the beautiful countryside of Brittany, France. And today we're meeting up with a man who lives far out in those hills, mostly removed from the modern world. He grows his own food and lives in a self-sufficient way. I know that's a dream for many, to eat what comes from their land, to be removed from society to some degree. So today we're gonna get an inside look of what that lifestyle is like. Let's do this. How long have you lived out here?
30 years.
30 years?
Yep. And I came here when I was 7, so it's my 30th year here. I was born in York, so it was the north of England.
In York? Okay.
Yeah. Which way? So I haven't even thought about there's a lot to see. So this is against the deer. That was about 5 or 6 years ago. We got the garden just nice, and then the deer decided they wanted to eat it all. So we had 7 deer living just on our land. It was crazy.
Okay, so your parents moved out here just to get away from it all?
Yeah, more or less, I think. We never had any money. My mum liked travelling, changing the scenery. We came on a holiday and we thought, yeah, why not? And sold the house, bought a caravan, and we spent all the money we had whilst looking for a house, so we ended up by just buying a ruin. I think that's when the farming adventure started. It was an idea of trying to become wild. You know, the lack of information that I had when I was young. I was told about how destructive a human being was. It took me a long time to realise and to prove to myself a human being can just live similar to an animal on a bit of land, can work the land, it can have a whole ecosystem, you know, which lives thanks to the human being in a harmonious way.
Is there any good purpose for having ants out here?
I don't know, but nature does it, so it's got to be good. But it's part of soil regeneration, I think. This soil was like terrible.
It aerates the soil, right?
To me, everything nature does is good, but sometimes it takes a while as a human being to see the good benefits. I mean, for me, I like to say that like farming is, you know, it's love. That's what it is. It's love. And
so when you look at your soil, you're pretty happy with what you're seeing here?
No, this is still terrible. This field was just a catastrophe. It was farmed with big machines. All the organic matter is just taken out. I think that's the thing about modern farming. In my opinion, it's basically the concept is hydroponic. You don't want a living soil. You want a soil that's sort of neutral, and then you can add what you want. You can't necessarily call it bad farming because it's what they want.
Zero fertilizer?
Zero fertilizer. Nothing comes in. I cut the grass, I pile it up, and it composts into the soil. And okay, so we're going to come into the crop zone now.
So these are all of your fields, yeah?
Yeah, the thing is, I've got a really tiny farm. It's like 6 acres, but I've got 35 fields.
So do you feel more French or more British?
I feel rural. I like the countryside. I think as soon as I go into a town, it makes me feel deeply depressed.
You're not married?
No.
Do you want to be married?
It's not priority number 1.
Okay.
I explain to every girl I meet that my first love's my land, but they're the good second place. No, but I think, you know, it's good. You don't jeopardise what's good. But anyway, this was rye. So that's our main cereal crop. I kind of figured that every civilization is based on a grain. Today, you know, you can have a big vegetable garden. Everybody says that you're self-sufficient. Veg is good in the summer, but actually, where do you get your grain from, you know? When I started doing it, I realised that nobody, in my area at least, can actually raise a grain crop from A to Z by hand.
So you're the only guy doing this out here?
That I claim, I like to say I'm the only person self-sufficient on grain in the Western world. I say it just in the hope someone's going to contradict me, but so far they haven't.
Okay, I'm sure this video will have someone contradicting.
I really hope it does. You know, get in touch, because the thing about it is, if I'm wrong, get in touch, because what's tragic is when you're the only one doing it, there's so little information around. Every so often, I can't find information anywhere. You know, I'm the only one I know that's doing it this radical, with no petrol. This is the main tool, this is the plough. It's called a hoe. In Africa, they do it, hoe farming. And I'm the tractor. That's what I explained to them. I'm the tractor. This is my plough. That I wanted to grow my own cereal and grain crop. They said, oh, you can't do it. You don't have the energy to grow yourself your own food. You need to have a horse. You need to have a horse to do the ploughing. You can't prepare the ground yourself. But logically, that's kind of weird. The human being, like the only animal that can't do its own work for itself, has to have a slave, has to enslave some poor animal into doing its work for it. And this ground's stony.
Yeah, a lot of rocks in there, huh?
I know, but it's specifically this field. This field is called Stony Field. My idea was that I wanted to, I should have the energy to be able to feed myself. And so my petrol, my fuel, is basically the bread. That's the idea, you know. I'm working the land to grow some rye. I eat the bread. I've got my energy to work the land. And so it's a completely short, micro cycle. It's like I'm planting a tree and my grandchildren's generation is going to chop it down and going to have a house, something to live for. It's hazelnuts. This one's got a hole in it, but this one's got all the first ones have got holes, but I'm a nut king with this. These are basically, I planted them special for big nut varieties. We'll stash it there in the thatch shed, your umbrella.
Oh, wow. That's cool. The thatch shed.
This is where we're having lunch, you know. This is called the village square. In winter, we have a fire here every evening. We don't work hard, you see. We only do the garden in the afternoons.
You don't work hard?
Really don't. Farming's too easy. This is what people don't understand. The problem with farming is it's too easy. And I think maybe, we'd have all been happier as hunter-gatherers. But the farmer is just so easy and you make huge reserves and you've got too much spare time. And I actually get on well with my farming neighbours. The neighbours I get on best with are my farming neighbours, strangely. They've got farms like 200 acres. Not the same style of farming as me, but...
What do they think of your style?
A scepticism at first, but I think a lot of mutual respect. I think there's a certain bond between people that like to... get wet in the rain.
Do you feel like in Brittany a lot of this older culture is going away, or are the traditions being passed on and the young people are carrying on some of it?
Things just dying I think the story's the same everywhere. Maybe there might be one or two people learning, younger people, but it's not as fast as the older people dying and the knowledge being lost. You can try and get fake hope, by focusing on one or two younger people, but the overall picture is just all going in one direction, in my opinion. It's off the edge of the cliff.
Are the young people all moving to the cities here?
Yeah, at the same time, there are young people moving to the countryside.
Okay, but the people moving to the countryside have their jobs online, like me, right? They can work from their computer?
Yeah. Some of them, yeah, with the remote working. That's been a big thing. But others, no money, no job, and just got fed up with it and trying to make something work.
The way you live is inexpensive, but is it pretty inexpensive to live out here?
Relatively, presumably, particularly the property, but it still takes money. People have this sort of idea of living on no money. A lot of people, when they see me, they want to plaster this on me as a concept. Samuel lives with no money. But it's just completely fake. It's not true. I don't really, you can't really live with no money, practically. And I don't want to because, you've got to be part of what's going on, in my opinion. I want to carry my voice loud and high across the world, to show you there's another... I've started doing books about how we farm. Maybe it's not actually a problem, the money, but I think it's a problem that we've become dependent. I felt dependent on the food industry, on the energy industry, and I wasn't necessarily in agreement with every element of it,
Okay. So wouldn't it be fair to say that we're dependent on resources? And money is just a way of getting...
Exactly.
Efficient way to get those resources is using money.
Yeah. But the resources, it's a false dependence. This is what I felt like a stranger. And I couldn't live without petrol and plastic and As a human being, I hadn't been made. Obviously, as a human being, I'm dependent on food. I need to eat or I'm dead. With petrol, that's not the case. I don't want to be dependent on a system and a chain that I think is destructive to the planet, but also to human beings. I think we are actually nature. It's not just bad for the bees and the nature, and it's actually bad for us. 30 years ago when we arrived, my dad built a modern house with electric and running water, and you see in a building like this, if you put a book in it, it gets damp. A computer, it would destroy a computer in like a few months. It would get too damp. I think you've got to be practical. You need a modern space, even though I find modern spaces ugly. And I think when I got to be about 16, we had these two ruins that someone sold us for like a few €100, I think. You can see you've just got clay, no cement, just clay mortar.
Yeah.
Just rocks, basically rocks from the field, mud basically as the mortar, and wood and slate on the roof. That was the building. Traditionally, it would have been thatch. It's just completely in harmony. It was this idea that just kept bugging me of, as a human being, why do I need to build myself this huge fortress against nature of concrete? And you go and buy all these products that basically destroys the fertility of the soil. But as a human being, what do you live on? You live thanks to the fertility of the soil. I didn't know anything about traditional building or anything, so I tried to do this. We took it down and built it back up the same side.
You made this?
Yeah, we did the whole thing.
Slate roof with a skylight? That is cool.
I took it down, I built it back up, and I kind of felt that I'd built it up less good than what I'd taken down. That other house was in a pursuit, really, of doing something that was more genuinely ecological. This is my seed production.
Oh, yeah.
I'm drying out all my seeds.
So all from the property?
Yeah. Except the parsnip, barley, orge, naked barley, that is. Orge, new. Broad beans, rocket, arugula.
So every day, all the food you're eating comes from your property, or are you taking anything from the surrounding area?
The thing is, I live with my sister and my dad. I'm probably the most fanatical. If I'm living by myself, the answer would be yeah. People like different things. It's good. I think a bit of flexibility is good. I'm too extreme. I'm too radical. It normalises me. That's my amaranth. It was a grain of the Aztecs. You'll see it in the garden. It's a great plant.
Do you think small farms are under threat in France?
You've got farms that are like 200 acres, 300 acres. All the pressure's on them getting, bigger.
Like this guy out here.
He doesn't even know if he's going to be able to pass it on to his son, I think there's a really big change going on where the family farm is just disappearing really, really fast.
So the bigger conglomerates, the bigger farms are just buying up the smaller?
It hasn't really happened here, but they're talking about it. Corporations owned by the Chinese. It's just all being kept afloat by government money. That's the problem. The French farms just lose money.
Okay.
And the government just keeps them afloat. But at the same time, you've got these, we call them neo-rurals. Okay. People coming from the town who want to live on the land. My neighbour here, he just sells milk and he sells it to the co-op, and they just mix it with all the other milk, and some of it goes as baby formula in China. They've got a factory 15 minutes away. So it's not at all local, And then neo-rurals who are from the town, they have these small farms, a few cows, a few chickens, and they go and they do the local markets.
Okay.
So the local markets are booming, really, with like local small-scale producers.
Oh, great. That's cool.
So that's where I get my butter from, that's where I get my cheese. It's a network, it's a nice network.
So this is the neighborhood?
Yeah. Just can't resist those blackberries, Got one?
Yeah. Thank you.
When they come off with that little, that it's, they've got a green bottom. Also, you've got to make, look at the bottom of your blackberry, and if it's green, then it's good. In our village, we've got 3 different families. So that's the neighbour, and that's another neighbour. When I was young, I used to walk this walk every day, me and my sisters, before I started farming. And just every year, you just see less people. bigger fields.
Nobody's out here.
Less trees, exactly. Less trees, less hedgerows.
Samuel, do you feel like you're missing out on anything? Like when you're 80, you're going to be on the same plot of land?
That's the plan, yeah.
Plan? On the right trajectory?
I think these are questions you should ask yourself all the time, and I do, you know. People are looking at me, you know, hoping for some inspiration, for some guidance. Like I looked at people older than me, hoping I was going to get some ideas, you know, for what the hell to do with life. So that's the oven. I built this, my third attempt. I built 2 ovens before, but I couldn't get the air to circulate right. And so I put the dough in and it just stayed as dough. Then finally I just measured my neighbour's oven. It takes 1.5 hours to 2 hours to heat and 45 minutes to cook the bread. I do it every 2 or 3 weeks. But I freeze some of my bread because I don't want to do it every week.
So if all the supply chains stopped, things stop, society stops.
Society completely stops. Basically the lorries stop on the road.
The lorries stop, the electricity stops, the internet stops.
I'm freaking out in my head, but I'm doing okay, yeah.
How long would you last?
Well, I'd go all the way, wouldn't I? That's the idea. It'd be a gamble because I think that I'd need other people. But potentially, if everything stopped, a few people might think, Samuel's got an idea. Or some people, though, I think they're planning on coming and robbing my stores when it stops. A few people have mentioned that.
What do you mean?
Well, they just say, well, it's good to know where you've got your rice stored, Samuel, and your potatoes. I'll come and get some if everything stops.
Right. That is a reality I think most people don't like. Like there's this romantic notion of like, I can self-sustain, right?
Yeah.
And I'm totally on my own and the world stops, I'm good out here. But you're right. Once that happens, you got the goods and someone else doesn't.
Exactly.
They're coming for you.
And then,
right?
and then you see what you've got to do is share. In my opinion, the plan is share what I've got.
You have to be close with all of your neighbors.
Yeah.
The community has to be very tight.
But yeah, this is my my next step. You know, I just feel too vulnerable. Even though I get on with my neighbours, to me, I want, you know, together, you know, together we'll survive.